Last question today is from our Reddit discussion forum, which you can get to by going to davidpakman.com/Reddit, Reddit. It's from a user who goes by MetaCat on Reddit, which is sort of like that is sort of the epitome of the Reddit name, isn't it? Meta and cat. Reddit's all about cats, and people love doing meta-analyses on Reddit. So that's like the perfect Reddit name. Have you guys been to the West Coast? And if so, what are your thoughts about the region, food, and people? Lewis, I know you have very strong feelings about this. I'll go to you first.
I don't know how strong they are. But
Well, you say you hate the West Coast and would never want to live there.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay, good.
I said I'd never want to live in L.A. And San Francisco is just way too outrageously expensive.
Got it.
Makes no sense. I like the West Coast.
You do?
I do. Well, okay. I've only been as far north as, let's say, an hour north of San Francisco.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
I haven't left California. I like the coast. It's nice.
Sure.
It's a beautiful place. Even some of those satellite beach communities out, on LA, those are nice. You got Malibu. You keep going. Eventually, you've got beautiful forests. And
very far north, yeah.
Very far north. The food is good too, right?
Yeah, I've never been to Oregon or Washington State, but I've been from 4 hours north of San Francisco all the way down the coast to San Diego, which is, of course, the last city before you get over into Mexico along the coast. I've never really been inland, and I know most of California is inland. If I were to live on the West Coast, I could maybe see being in Portland. I know Seattle is cool, although people say that the sun goes down at about 3:30 in the middle of winter, and that I would find to be a challenge, and that also there's a lot of rain. But otherwise, Seattle seems like an interesting place. But San Francisco is one of my favorite cities in the United States, along with New York City, Boston, and Washington, D.C., and Miami Beach. And San Francisco, I think, is a fantastic place. I've been all the way up to 4 hours north of San Francisco, up to Humboldt County, as some people know it, Weed World. And I'm not that big of a fan of Humboldt County. You know, I say that, of course, with the utmost respect for everybody who lives there. Fantastic place. Excellent, excellent place. Not exactly my cup of tea. LA, I get what people say about LA. The traffic is crazy. The having to drive most places if you aren't lucky enough to be on the subway lines, which many people don't even know exist in Los Angeles, but they do have a subway system. I get that, but there's still a lot of neighborhoods and parts of Los Angeles, of the outskirts of Los Angeles, that I think are really pretty nice. And San Diego's an interesting place too, although culturally it's never really been my thing. My problem is, and I think that this is just bias from being on the East Coast, I feel like I feel like the West Coast is just behind in the sense of it is 3 hours earlier there. When you get up at 8 a.m. on the West Coast, so much stuff has happened on the East Coast of the United States. And I know this doesn't make any sense. I know it's all relative. By the time you wake up on the East Coast, it's the afternoon in Europe and a bunch of big things have already, quote, happened. You know, it's not totally logical, but there's some sense I have of like, out there on the West Coast, they're just hanging out. They don't care what goes on here on the East Coast. People are already having lunch by the time they're getting their morning coffee. It's like, yeah, it's just a different time zone, right? It's not really a critique, but it just always feels like I'm sort of out of it when I'm on the West Coast.
So the ideal place for you to live then would be, let me think, somewhere in like the Israel time zone, right?
Why?
Well, however far ahead you'd have to go to not hit the next day would be the ideal time zone for you, because then you're first.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's an interesting idea, but I think this makes about as much sense as me choosing
as your point in general,
which animals to eat based on their intelligence, which I actually still defend as not a terrible rubric.
All right, you can do that. Yeah, I mean there are plenty of great places on the West Coast.
Yeah,
for sure. I have no problems with the West Coast.
Great food. I like the people, etc. No real complaints other than serious water problems in California. San Francisco is very, very expensive, but love the West Coast. All right, we have a terrific bonus show for you today, and I'll remind you, we are giving away free 32 gigabyte David Pakman Show USB 3.0 flash drives with discounted memberships. There's one place to get them. It is davidpakman.com/flash drive. This ends in a few days, so take advantage of it.